Today, what we're doing is just walking you guys through the Trinity Campus project and taking any questions that you have in regard to just the status and where we are in the project. So quickly to just give you an update, what's the focus of of this campus project? Basically, what we're looking at overall for the project is to improve, update, and maximize the ability of the land that we have and then in our church facilities, right? So what we're focusing on, number one, is to provide much needed purpose-driven spaces for various ministries in our church, primarily the Sunday school, but then also there's the choir, there's all our different organizations where we're able to utilize our church space much more efficiently and much more specifically. Two, what we want to do is focus on updating the areas that require updating, remodeling, and focusing in terms of bringing the entire campus up to date across the board. So that includes, as you guys will see, touching the restrooms, updating them, adding more facilities, also looking at improving the kitchen space now to accommodate our church of our size, right? And then also we're looking at bringing in additional utilities to our church. By that I mean basically connecting primarily to sewage, and we're also going to look at bringing in gas so we can also utilize like a gas range in the kitchen. And the third thing is to optimize the overall flow of our facility. Since we bought the land off of Wayside, we want to be able to add parking and then look at the traffic flow and utilization in terms of how we access our facilities, considering that we have now two entrances. So we want to be able to address those three areas. Okay. So what we've done so far is we put a project plan together. I know several of you have probably seen it in church, and this is a smaller venue. So if you have questions, let's talk about it. But these are the bullet points of what the plan will provide us. We have 18 dedicated classrooms. We've got conference rooms that will double up as classrooms because our initial need when we did our requirements evaluation was approximately 25 classrooms. So with the reduced plan, we're able to get 18 dedicated classrooms, three classrooms out of conference rooms, but then we can also utilize open space that's available in the church. Dedicated offices for the organizations, obviously mention the kitchen and pantry, but then what we'll do is we'll open up the fellowship space, which would accommodate approximately 170 people, and then have a large conference area where we can have up to 540 people. We're going to be expanding the bathrooms, and as you guys can let's go down the list. I mean, we would also add the much needed entrance and parking. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so this is the plan. This is the first floor plan. Can you guys see my cursor on the screen? Yes, no?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, we can see it, yes.
Yeah. So I'll start from the sanctuary. So this is where we were saying that we would have additional 170 seating. So essentially what we would do is we would eliminate the row of rooms that's on this existing rooms that are on this side of the hallway and expand this entire hallway. This allows the flow from the church. We eliminate that bottleneck where everyone kind of gathers in the hallway next to the bathrooms. So it's a big, larger gathering area. This can be doubled up as a small fellowship area if you don't want to use a larger conference center area. So then we would move the kitchen, which is existing right here. We would move it to this location right here. Okay. So this is a much larger kitchen. It's got a dedicated pantry and also has access to the back end where we would plan to bring the drive around back here so where we can have catering brought in through the pantry into the kitchen. And then also we can have, the members who cook outside, make the kani, they make the food for the events, right? We have a patio area back here where you can do the external cooking, right? So we were able to accommodate those kind of activities. Now, if we keep moving over to the right, we've got our coffee area dedicated over here, an information center, basically where we can give ongoing items of the church, okay? Now, the new building is essentially this big rectangle, okay? Our existing building ends right here. So you can see where this arrow is, and it comes up to here, okay? So the plan is essentially to eliminate that building, add one large building which connects to the Trinity Center. What this allows us to do is we have a large space with a dedicated stage where we would have 504 seating down here, but then also the dedicated stage has access to a music room here, and then also has access to the conference center area here. So where we can have activities where we can rehearse, we can have plays, we can have events, right? Without coming and cutting into the conference center area. So we can have conventions, different functions that be held here. And it flows and works for the church's need, okay? So we keep moving over. You can see the new entryway up here on the top. So this would be the entryway coming from the Wayside property. You have our staircase going up, and we have an elevator, obviously go to the second floor. And as we keep moving, going around towards the left, this is where we'll have the dedicated classrooms. Now, this can be foreseen as the younger elementary, like Head Start, kindergarten, first grade. We have the younger kids on the first floor where the parents can come and have easy access to them, and it's closer to the restrooms, right? So this could be lower at elementary. I mean, this can be all decided later, right? We've got our medical cry room here, which is, if you have a conference going on, you take the kids out, it's close to that point where we can have that access. And then there's an entry area here into the gym, okay? So now this is a pretty large space. It's by 20 feet by 16 feet, so it's a pretty large, you can imagine a large living room. So we call that the lounge area, which is specifically that we have for the gym, for the Trinity Center, where we can set up our ping pong tables and have our little coffee center, whatever we want over there. And it'll be an area where the youth and everyone can gather also. Okay, and that's the entry into the existing gym. So that's the first floor. Any questions? Okay. Second floor, we'll either take the stairs here. We've got the stairs over here at the front side of the building on the Almeda side where we have the current entrance. Then there's also the entrance on the Wayside coming in. We can go up the stairs. Okay. Now, here upstairs is primarily all our classrooms. And this gives us flexibility to say this is, let's say, upper elementary, junior high, high school. Over here, it would be giving us the ability to separate and then be able to have individual classrooms. Sunday school office is planned to be here with a little storage area so that they're able to manage and maintain the items for Sunday school. Now, up here, there's a balcony that looks down into the conference center, and this has an additional 54 seats with the sound booth. Similar setup to what we have in the church as a sound booth. So we would be able to have all the equipment, lighting, sound, control, all that kind of stuff that's needed to be able to have a conference center available. So there's location for that. Okay, so that's the space plan. Any questions? Okay, so I'm going to keep going. All right, so now, since we're going to get into the project funding. So as mentioned before, right, in church, so our proposal is $3.75 million to do the entire project. We've got approval from the diocese for that, with one condition that we can start construction. Before we can start construction, we need to have 60% of the money raised. Okay. So with that said, our funding goals are broken out into phases. Phase 1 and phase 2 is to collect the amount of money we need to be able to start construction. Phase 1, our goal is to raise $1 million by December 31st, 2021. So that's for this year. And then phase 2 is to have the remaining 1.2 collected by March 31st. If we can get a good allocation of that money in place, then we can have a much stronger start date and be able to go out and get some stronger bids from builders and really start the contract process. And then phase 3 and phase 4 is basically essentially paying back whatever money that we had to borrow to be able to complete the project. Okay. So what we've done is we've essentially helped to facilitate some of this is to develop some programs or to be able to start the fundraising. Okay. So the executive committee has approved basically 2 ways to promote fundraising. One is to sponsorship of rooms. So what we have here are allocated the dedicated rooms. So it's been approved to allocate 20 rooms to be able to start the fundraising. So what this allows us to do is to dedicate or sponsor a room to a purpose or to a memory of someone. So to get a room is $50,000 to sponsor a room. And the way the $50,000 comes into play is that we would like the first installment, which would be 50%, by phase 2, right? So 50%. So if you're going to give 50,000, we would expect 12,500 by December, and then 12,500 by March, and then the remaining 25 over 5 years. So that way, it's a 5-year commitment in terms of focusing and supporting this project. Then there's opportunity to where we'll have a plaque designated in the entry area or somewhere in the new building, which recognizes the families who have contributed or pledged a certain amount. So platinum is 25, diamond is 20, gold is 15, and silver is $10,000. And that's pretty much over 4 years. But over the 4 years, what we're asking for is the 50% also of your pledged amount to be given by phase 2, which is the end of March of 2022. That way, we can have a good amount in hand, and we're able to see how much we need to finance, if we need to finance through like zero interest loans from our members, or if we need to actually look at reaching out to a financial institution. Questions? Okay. So what we've done is we've also created a web page. And what this page does is it'll give you information about the project. And also it's an avenue for you guys to be able to submit your pledges. So as of right now, we've got $100,000 that's been pledged. So, and our first phase target and second phase is basically the $2.2 million. Okay. So this will be a running scale. So as you guys get in and put the pledges online, this number will automatically update. So that way we can see where we are in terms of achieving our target. Then what we've done is we've broken out the project into the different areas. So when we talk about campus redesign, the flow, it'll take you to a page which basically shows you our property. What we're looking at to impact is basically the conference center, classrooms, new parking lot, new Wayside entrance. So basically it would change the overall flow of our entire facility. So this makes it much more usable. And I want to say we are able to leverage what we've invested into our church thus far. Okay. Special purpose rooms are highlighted here. So the way each one of these links work is we went back to the space plan and highlighted the areas for each one of these areas. So special purpose, you've got the office, storage, restrooms, the medical area, the flex room, we've got our music rehearsal room, conference rooms, right? If you look at the conference fellowship center, these are the areas that are allocated for the conference and conference room and the fellowship center, right? And the restroom still highlighted. If you look at the kitchen area, we've got kitchen area over here. Classrooms are identified here, basically what would be allocated for the classrooms. Okay. And then it's bulletized here. So you can always come back to this web page and see how, what the project's focusing on and what are the areas that we need to we're focusing on. All right. So then we've got project goals here. It's highlighted essentially what phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. And this will give you an idea of where we are in terms of pledges and
recording in progress.
Yes, how the pledging is going. Okay, pledge. Basically, what you would do is click on the pledge button. You can enter your name, right, and it takes you through a series of questions. I'm giving my number out, right? So then if you're a member, you would put your church ID here. If you're not, then you just keep going, right? Then from here, if you would like to sponsor a classroom, basically, you can see the rooms that have already been sponsored, one and this one right here. So if you want to do sponsoring, yes, you put your room number in, and then basically, how is it that you want to make your payments? Select one, and then basically, if you would like to pledge in addition to that, you click yes, and it'll take you another series of questions. If you don't, just click no, and then basically, let's say number 2. Okay, right, and then basically we're done. Okay. If you want to just do a regular pledge, then you would go through the other series of questions, which would be no. And then here, basically, you can select amount, enter it in, and then basically what you guys need to do is go in and select how much you're going to allocate for each of the phases. What this allows us to do is get a good plan in place in terms of what the potential income would be coming in for each of the phases by time. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So I will answer some questions that have been frequently asked. So I know it's been a concern in terms of why don't we break this project out in phases or even smaller sections. We looked into that when we were talking to the builders. So for every phase that we break into, let's say we break this project into 3 phases, essentially we're increasing the cost of the project because depending on how we break the project up, we're doubling up on labor, we're doubling up on, on certain materials, or even in the purchasing of materials, right? We would be purchasing smaller amounts. So the estimate is that for every phase that we put in terms of construction, we would be adding $10 a square foot. And then the other thing is also now the team that's running this project, I mean, it would become a much larger commitment on them because you're talking about maybe a 1 to 2 year project going to maybe a 4 to 5 year project. So that's why we put the plan in place, and also are looking in terms of other avenues for funding to be able to get the project done quickly, but then allow the congregation and our members to be able to, I guess, support in over a longer term. So that was one question that I was getting consistently, or at least Reggie and I were being asked. So I'd like to address that. Is there anything else that you guys have questions on?
Alan, you may want to cover what if you don't like to get on the website? Can we just talk to the trustees?
Yes. Yeah, that's true. So if you don't want to go to the website, basically talk to the trustees and just let them know how you would like to pledge. So the room that you guys are interested in, or if it's just a flat pledge, and just let them know. Then they can track it in the system manually from there.
So that will not show up on here?
It will. Well, that's a very good question. We need to close that process. When they enter it into the table in the system, I will have to go make sure that I'll talk with Anoop and make sure that it does show up. We want all the pledges to go into one table so we can keep it in a central location, and the page will go and pull an update according to that. And it might be while you're talking to the trustees, they'll go through and fill the questions in for you, and that'll be the cleanest process. Anything else? Okay, so that's all I had. If there are no more questions, I'll hand it back to Reggie on Almeda.